Hey guys, so this video is a quick comparison of three different models of the Shun kitchen knives. Um, I want to just quickly talk about some of the features of the knives that's offered by Shun and also which one is my preferred knife. And so first off, we have the Shun Classic. This is actually the knife that we had for the longest time. We bought this actually almost 5 years ago. Um, and the price hadn't changed much on those knives. So I think we bought it for $180 on sale. This is the vegetable cleaver, the Chinese style vegetable cleaver, which is actually my wife's favorite knife in the house. And so the knife is very well constructed. It's big, but it's not overly heavy. So it actually feels top heavy, but then again, it's not extremely top heavy like some of the meat cleavers that you can find on the market. It's mainly used for cutting large vegetables. So if you have any vegetable that's like enormously large, like maybe the cabbage or the broccoli or any kinds of like, or the watermelon. So this knife is definitely the best in cutting large vegetables. For anything of the smaller scale, you can also use this knife. It's just not gonna be as precise of a cutting as say some of the other options you have over here. So the downside, I would say the only downside for that I have for this knife is I'm a left-hand user. I'm a lefty, and this knife have a D-shaped design. So a lot of Shun Classic, or actually all of the Shun Classic, have this D-shaped design. So they are super comfortable for right-hand user. So but extremely uncomfortable for left-hand users. The reason being this little bump, when like this little, like you can see it's very pronounced. It's not there on the left side. So if I'm using the right hand, I can hold it extremely comfortably while cutting. On the left hand, however, it's an entirely different story. Like this bump actually goes against your thumb, so it's extremely uncomfortable when I'm trying to cut using the Shun Classic. So that's the reason why it's my wife's favorite, but it's my least favorite knife in the house. Over here, actually, let's do this first. Over here we have the Shun Hikari. This is a, oh, by the way, and this one uses the VG10 steel that's supposedly 60 on the hardness scale. And this is Shun Hikari. This is SG2 steel, which is around 63 hardness on the hardness scale. So the steel is slightly harder, which means it's more prone to chipping. And if you are not careful, if you're washing the knives and you accidentally drop it in the sink, it might chip. With the VG10, we haven't had any problem with the knife chipping. Granted, we don't use it to cut any kinds of bones, so it's only vegetable and boneless proteins, and it's done its job fantastically well. We haven't found one thing that this knife doesn't do well, so it cuts everything. Great to have. The Shun Hikari over here, it's a 6-inch chef's knife, Western chef's knives. And this features a very interesting pattern that Shun is incorporating. And I think this is also layered, but it's not a Damascus style layer. This is just a interesting etching pattern that they use over here. It could be, I just haven't seen the specs. By the way, those kind of layering, the Damascus, what are not, those layering have no direct performance relationship to the performance of the knife. It's mainly for cosmetics. So when you hear Damascus knife or whatever, it only pertains to those patterns that they use when they are doing the layered process of getting all different kinds of layer together to fuse this piece of I don't think it's forged. I think it's still stamped. So the stamped metal, but this is expensive stamped metal. Um, so this design, it looks interesting. It's not my favorite design over here, but what I really enjoy, what I really love about this knife, or in particular the Hikari series, is their well-designed handle. This is a Paka wood, I think birch wood handle. So the Paka wood means it's engineered wood. So it's still wood, it's just somehow they fused this wood together with resin, and it looks nice, it's very durable, and it doesn't wear out like the real wood. This is also engineered Paka wood. So as you can see, 5 years, I haven't seen much wear at all. So this kind of handle is definitely great. What I love about the Hikari is if you look at the profile, it's perfectly oval. So this knife is absolutely wonderful for left-hand users, which means I can hold this knife very comfortably in my hand, and the little groove over here actually is also very comfortable. So compared to this one, which had a kind of a squared off groove over here, so when you're cutting, like sometimes my hand, if I'm doing like some precise cutting, you can see it leaves a mark on my hand right over here. And while I'm cutting with this knife, the 6-inch chef's knife, the Hikari, my hand really doesn't get stuck in there. And actually, it follows the curve of my finger really nicely. So I would say the handle design of the Hikari is actually much better than the Shun Classic, which explains because this is actually one level higher than the Shun Classic. And it uses a much harder steel in this design. What I really don't like about the Hikari series is the pattern. I just think this pattern is downright ugly. It's too repetitive, and I don't know. It's just a personal preference. It's my least favorite pattern in the Shun lineup. I'd rather prefer this one to does not have any pattern at all than having a kind of this kind of a pattern. I don't even know what they call this. Anyway. And over here on the very bottom is actually my personal favorite in our home knife lineup, which is actually the Shun Fuji. And the reason I love the Fuji is because compared to the Hikari, the Fuji actually feels even more balanced in the hand, and the handle is actually substantially larger, especially at the front part compared to the Hikari. So what Hikari is great for is, again, left hand and right hand users, and maybe for people who have a very small hand, because the front of the handle is actually very slim compared to the back of the handle. So I would think for ladies, the Hikari series would be great because it feels great in the hand if you have a smaller hand. And for person who have a larger hand, the classic actually might be more comfortable because the handle is slightly larger. It just have a larger feel in the hand. And the Fuji actually have the largest feel of the handle of all of those knives. Actually, even the front part feels substantial when you actually hold the knife. And believe it or not, the shape of the handle is like that. And this is a very interesting custom shape. And look at the texture over here. It looks great. This is the same texture they use over here on the side of the Hikari. So on the end of the Hikari, you just have this little Shun logo over there. And if you look at the classic, of course, because it is the most affordable one in this lineup, it doesn't have any special effects on there. So the knives, once you get to VG10 knives, the only thing different from the VG10 and up to SG2 is the aesthetics of the knives. So as long as you have a VG10 knife, it doesn't matter about the graphics. It's gonna be a great knife to have if you keep it sharpened, for use, and it's gonna keep sharpened for a long time. In actual use, I haven't noticed much of a difference between the VG10 and the SG2 in terms of the longevity of the blade needs sharpening. So all of them can last for quite a while. And I usually just horn my knife like quite often, and I usually just sharpen them after like every couple weeks because I love sharpening my knives. So all those knives VG10 and up, it's gonna last you a while before it needs sharpening again. Okay, so the only difference is the careful, really sharp. So it's the texture and the pattern design on the knife. That's the only difference. So, and also the handle, they're gonna try to be creative and using all kinds of shapes for the handle, but sometimes it's a hit or miss. So with the Fuji, I think they actually hit a sweet spot because this handle, the design, interesting. I don't know how to call this shape. It's a excellent design. Great for left hand and right hand users. And actually, when you hold the knife, your hand very naturally falls at the resting point over here, and it doesn't really extend over to the over the bolster of the knife. And so for this one, actually your hand was forced to be sitting over here. For the Fuji, your hand can actually sit more comfortably over here. During cutting, this feels definitely more comfortable. And because of the design of the, I think you call this bolster, right? If you hold your hand like that, your hand doesn't really go protruding over here, through further making your cutting uncomfortable. Your hand actually just sits naturally on the handle. This is a very well designed handle. Like, I would say this is the most comfortable handle I've ever held in any of the knives that I tried. The reason I love the Fuji, not because of its price, not because of the pattern, which definitely looks the best out of the three, but because of the handle. This handle is definitely hands down the best feeling of all in the Shun lineup. In terms of cutting, it cuts through all kinds of stuff, super sharp, cuts through paper like butter, cuts through vegetables like butter, cuts through meat like butter. And this is actually a boning knife, but I actually use this to cut vegetables and meat, all kinds of stuff as well, just not bones. So all those knives can be used to cut vegetables, can be used to cut the proteins. So really, you just need to pick a knife that actually, the knife shape that you use the most. For us, the cleaver definitely is the most versatile in the house, but again, because of the shape of the design, I don't really use it much. The Hikari is actually the middle of the road. It's very comfortable handle. It's great for left-hand use. The only downside with my Hikari is that for me, the knife is actually a little too short. It's a 6-inch, and I'd rather prefer a 7-inch or 8-inch chef's knife in terms of cutting vegetables, or the type of vegetables that we cut in our house. The boning knife is actually a 6.5-inch, right over there. So the boning knife is actually longer, which makes it more comfortable in cutting vegetables, and also some meats that's a little bit larger. And so that's why I think this is my personal favorite. And this is my wife's personal favorite, and this is middle of the road. So anybody can use it, and anybody is not gonna compliment or complain about its performance. It's just a overall comfortable knife to use. This one is comfortable. It cuts like butter, it cuts through things like butter, and it's very balanced in the hand. So it just feels great. The feeling of the handle is really kudos to Shun for making this shape of the handle. So there you have it, guys. This is my quick review of, or comparison of, the Shun Classic, the Hikari, and the Shun Fuji. All knives performs great. It all depends on your actual needs and your budget. So questions, comments, feel free to ask me in the comment section below. I'll post a link on where to get those knives. And if you guys find this video helpful, please do hit the like button and or subscribe. And I will have more similar content like this coming out for you guys. So thanks again, and take care.